If you get into an argument with somebody and they threaten to kill you, it's no big deal. But when you know that there are people who are professional killers and you know that they've killed people, and you find out that they're hired to kill you, you take it really, really seriously.
Charles, listen, I've been having a little problem. If I don't hear from you in 2 weeks, we'll have to resolve this in a different way. I really hope that we can resolve this.
I can't describe to you how unnerving that was, how terrifying that was. But it was a time, I'll say, that I did keep my wits about me. Well, for me, low-life culture has to do with either by circumstance or design, living a disenfranchised life, living on the margins, having to make choices that don't necessarily cohere with what people in mainstream culture do. I understood that I had choices. Now, of course, a lot of people who live in the middle of low-life culture have no choices whatsoever. It's a derogatory term, but it's also a survival skill, inventing the terms of your own existence, where you do what you need to do in order to get by. I grew up playing in mob clubs and strip clubs and jazz clubs, and so it isn't interesting because I played mob music there, but that I was in the company of mobsters. They sort of took an interest in me, and so that's probably my start in low life. People who watch boxing don't do it in a nuanced way. They don't do it with any appreciation of the culture. And they think that fighters owe them something. I just developed a kind of moral ambiguity about the kind of punishment these guys were taking. You see these guys getting hit in the head, and you see how damaged they all are, every one of them. So I realized that fixing fights was a way to do a number of things at once. It minimized the damage, the neurological damage these guys were going to get. But I just realized that if I wanted to make money in boxing, the fastest and the easiest way to do it was to fix fights. But I thought, this is something that nobody gets away with forever. When I officially got involved with boxing, where I was a licensed manager, my name was suddenly attached to my face, where people who had done business with me before now suddenly knew who I was. I was dealing with the mafia, I was dealing with the Russian mob, I was dealing with some pretty dangerous people in the boxing business. And I thought one of the ways I could protect myself is if I had recordings.
Charles, I know you're in Puerto Rico. I want you.
Anyway, I got into some trouble with some mob guys. Things happened to people around me that I knew about or I was involved in and that I can't talk about, for which there are no statute of limitations. And the mob guys decided that it was probably a good idea to kill me. So what you hear on that tape is a death threat. And I started to think really desperately, what can you say to them that will make it not to their benefit to kill you? I came up with something that worked. I had a meeting with the very people who were looking for me, and we brokered a deal through somebody where they got something. They were in the fight business and they got something as a result. They got something good for them. And they were made to understand that I wasn't going to give them up under any circumstances, and that if anything happened to me, something much, much worse would happen to them. And so we made a deal, and we went our separate ways. And clearly here I am. So it worked. I think that disenfranchised people feel the type of desperation I'm describing on a daily basis. I think the circumstances of their lives makes them prone to doing things that don't appear to be rational, and certainly don't, to most people, appear to be right. But I think there's a perception that people who live on one side of the law are doing things that are acceptable, and the people who live on the other side of the law are not. Life is much, much too nuanced for that. So, I mean, I think it's a dangerous thing to make blanket judgments about whether the way a person lives is morally acceptable or, ethically acceptable. But I think that the notion of right and wrong comes down to a kind of personal moral code, and that's really the only barometer you've got. I'm Charles Farrell. I play the piano. I've lived a complicated life, and now I'm just trying to make sense out of it.